What up?
What's going on, dude?
We did it.
We figured it out. what's what's going on, man? What are you up to?
Oh, just Sundays I do a lot of my client programs, so just messing around with those. Otherwise, just chilling, man.
Nice, dude. I saw that. That's what, that's the cool thing about Instagram. You kind of it feels like for anybody listening, Jared and I have never actually met, but you create these friendships with people that all over the world, and so I think that's pretty awesome. And I've been seeing your blueberry post today, your strawberries and whatnot.
Yeah. Yep.
So for those of the listeners who don't know who Jared Hamilton is, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction of who is Jared Hamilton? What is he about?
For sure, for sure. Well, if whoever's listening, if you don't know who I am, that is 100% my fault, and I apologize. That is completely my fault if you don't know who I am. But otherwise, my name's Jared Hamilton. I'm a fitness coach, so been a fitness coach for like 7 years now. Started mostly in the in-person sector, and then I found out what the online sector was, and I fell in love with it. I can help more people with it. I can reach a broader scale of people and all that stuff. But I growing up wise, I always sucked at learning. I was never good at learning. I was an undereducated homeschool boy, to be completely frank. So I always sucked at school. Never, always just had a hard time learning. Like I never got labeled as having like a disability, but I'm pretty sure I do. But nice thing is once I learn something, it's like in there for good, locked tight. So went through all that and then went to college, sucked at college. Took me, like 4 years to get a 2-year degree at a community college because I had to drop a class so often. But along those lines, I kind of found out about fitness and training, and I fell in love with it because I've always been kind of entrepreneurial spirited. I started like my first business when I was like, I don't know, a teenager. I started teaching drum lessons and stuff out of my basement. And
That's
fitness and always loved working with people, like between kind of being like loved being my own boss, but I also had this crazy drive for helping and teaching. I'm very much a teacher, like national people. I love teaching, I love speaking and all that. So that's kind of how I got started with all that stuff, and led like I do the online coaching thing now and still do in-person coaching sessions. But now I'm completely self-employed and have clients all over the globe and that kind of thing. So it's pretty awesome, man.
that's pretty badass. And I was actually that's really interesting. I was looking around at some things, and I saw you were playing drums. I didn't know you were teaching drums. And at age 18, so you must have been pretty.
It was younger than that. Yeah. So before I got into fitness, so I'm like, if you follow me for any period of time or get to know me, I'm very, very much all or nothing mentality kind of thing. That's a double-edged sword. But before fitness was drums, like music and drums specifically. And I play in a band. I like did a lot of solos, like independent stuff, and just like enjoyed playing. That was my life, was just drums. And then I started teaching kids out of my basement. I had like a makeshift studio, and like I had a couple working kits and would get students coming over and start teaching them and stuff. And then before I even got into the fitness sector, and then that kind of died off, and my kind of passion for that kind of went away. I still like getting around and fucking around on a kit or so. Like You'll see a post every once in a while where I'll be behind a kit. Yeah. But so I can still play, but it's nowhere like I used to play, like every single day or whatever.
What about, or how did you get into drumming in the first place?
Well, when I was about probably 12 or 13, I was just a little kid. I don't even know. Like, I mean, I always kind of like rhythm and music, and like I'd always get yelled at for like banging on a desk or a chair or a table. But then my mom was talking to one of her friends, and apparently they're about a city or two over, about 30 minutes from where we lived. There was a really badass music shop, and her kids, my mom's friends' kids, would go there, and they were talking about how awesome it was. So my mom said, would you want to go take drum lessons? And I said, sure, why not? Little did I know that was going to become like an 8-year thing. Went through like 3 instructors and started making actual money off of it, and basically teaching people. It was crazy, but one thing led to another. I was kind of I was pretty natural to it. I didn't have like it kind of came to me pretty quickly, and then I tried to like do other instruments, and I sucked balls at it. Like I was terrible. Like I was so into drums. I'm like, well, maybe if I learn piano and guitar, there, it'll complement,
Yeah.
drumming and things like that. Oh no, dude, it was a fucking nightmare.
Why do you think it was you didn't make the transition?
I don't know. Drums was just kind of like a gift. It just like came to me. I was super accelerated at it. I blew through like 3 instructors and like all this crazy stuff, and I was just a natural at it. But you give me a guitar and I'm like, not, or a piano, and I'm like, and like it just didn't work.
Tomatoes. That's pretty interesting. So you probably making some good money for a 16, 17-year-old with your lessons then.
Oh yeah, dude, I thought I was a baller, making like
Yeah.
$17 per half hour or $15
They,
per half hour as a 16, 17-year-old. I thought I was hot shit.
dude, that's balling out, man, for that age.
Yeah.
And then so were you doing I saw that you also did martial arts. Were you doing martial arts at the same time, or was that something that came around after drums?
That was actually right in the middle. That was if you actually, that was my transition to fitness. It's actually an interesting little segue because when I was about 13 or 15, somewhere in there, I got involved in martial arts. Now, being that whole undereducated homeschool kid, your boy had next to no extracurriculars. I never played sports. I didn't really have the opportunity to. I wasn't going to go join like a homeschool football league or something. So, So I got involved in martial arts, and that whole all or nothing mentality. Then before I know it, I'm spending 5-6 days a week at that martial arts school. And then I accelerated pretty well through that. I got a few black belts, and then I became an instructor there. They hired me on. That was my first job. I became an assistant instructor there and found out I absolutely love teaching and speaking in front of large groups. I love with people and like private lessons. And I found out I absolutely was fascinated with how the human body works. Like as soon as I learned, like if you like pivot your heel, hip, and pull your front hand back when you punch, you can hit harder. And I'm like, ooh, that's fascinating. So like the study of biomechanics became like, I nerded out hardcore about it. So then I started learning about physiology and muscles and bones and movement systems, and fell in love with it, like hardcore about it. Learning ways to hit harder and kick harder. And like, if I'm going to do an arm bar or lock somebody's arm out, I've got to understand how the body works in the ways that the elbow doesn't move or whatever. So I fell in love with that. Like it was a whole nother level of passion. And that's what kind of one thing led to another. And that's what kind of translated into me getting into the fitness sector, because then when I went to college, I studied kinesiology, the study of human motion. And one of my classes, because that's the only thing that sounded somewhat cool to me when I went to college, I started studying that. And then one of my classes was like basically a personal trainer class. You ended up getting your certification through it, and it was like you had practicals. So I trained people one-on-one, and it counted for class time and all this crazy stuff. And I fell in love with it, and it's been over ever since.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I can definitely relate to that, because it's almost like when you take on a physical endeavor and then you start to get interested in how the body works in there, it's almost like figuring out like a cheat code, because like you said, if you do this, this, and this, you within minutes you can hit harder, and it's very addicting for sure.
Yeah, dude, I love it.
That's kind of the same thing with like for me, lifting is very it's a very similar story. My background was basketball that led me into lifting, and figuring out, oh well, shit, if I get a little bit stronger here, work on these drills here, that translates to me not getting pushed around on the court, or me being able to jump higher, or whatever it is. let me ask you this. Was there, and especially since you said, being a teacher is very important to you, were there any specific teachers either in your drumming or your martial arts early on, or maybe even in school, that kind of inspired you, or were kind of examples of what you were trying to become?
That's a really good question. Yes and no. So, I mean, if with the teachers that I'd worked with, whether when I was younger in drums and in martial arts or whatever the case is, like that's kind of what I naturally modeled. So, like when I was teaching drums, I literally mimicked what I'd been ingrained in my head for 8 years, and the exact same setup how I'd been taught. So, whether that was conscious or subconscious, I don't know. Probably a little bit of both. But then there are aspects of it of stuff that like I loved, like there's things that resonated well with me, like especially the one-on-one work, working like let's say you and me, if we're independent coaches, we're working with someone. We don't just write a blanket program for every person on the planet. We figure out who the person is in front of us, what they actually want, what problems they have, what they struggle with, and build a program based around all of those factors. And that's how the same thing it always has been. Like whether I was struggling with this growing up in drums or this in martial arts or this and whatever, that's just how it had to go. If I sucked at this, well, to get beyond that, I have to quit sucking at that and get better at it. So, but then there were also things about whether, different teachers growing up that I didn't like. I've never got into the whole screaming your face off if you're not, doesn't solve any problems. Yep. Even in my marriage, like my wife and I, we don't even raise our voices at each other if we're disagreeing. I grew up in a house where mom and dad were, yelled at each other, and I hated that. So it's one of those things where you can find the silver lining in anything. You got to look for it. So like, let's say I didn't appreciate how, my mom and dad may have talked to each other, or, the yelling in the house. Well, I know that's how I'm not going to be when I get married. And now I have an amazing marriage,
Yep. That's really interesting, because that was kind of the next question that I had for you, is like, what things maybe that you saw that you didn't like, that you just that kind of informed you on changes that you were going to make in your coaching or your teaching. So that's pretty awesome. I'm similar to you in that regard, where I and like you said, the silver lining, fortunate or not fortunate, I had a lot of teachers in all facets of my growing up, basketball, coach, school, and all that, who were not good teachers. And I learned a lot about, okay, what not to do. So that's it's all in how you look at things.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So, and that kind of goes to, I know you've been talking about this a lot with all the guests on your podcast, Hamilton Trained. By the way, if you're not subscribed to that, go ahead and do so.
Hey.
But and go do that right now. But mindset is, and we talked about this when I was on your podcast last week or 2 weeks ago. But that leads me into, how important mindset is, and kind of like, actually, before we get into the mindset thing, let me ask you this question. Because that's always a rabbit hole, and we could spend a lot of time there. What is your, like, what do you see as your biggest contribution? Like, what do you want to give to the world, the people that you meet, the people that you work with, the people that you reach with your podcast? Like, what is that, if you can kind of sum that up, if you have something like that?
That's an amazing question. Because I feel like that could be different depending on who I'm talking to. But if you're talking about big stuff like legacy, like what I'm going to leave when I'm gone, they're going to remember me for, that kind of thing. I just want to help people. Like that's the thing is, we all have to do what we have to do to put food on the table for our families and provide and live. But I want to do so helping people. Not that, like, if someone that doesn't, like, directly impact someone, like let's say you I don't know, like let's say like you just have a not very fulfilling job. That's not bad, because the only reason anyone ever pays money in this world is to solve a problem. But for me, I wanted to help people, and if I don't help them, I don't get taken care of. So the only way I get taken care of and I get what I want is if I help people get what they want, which makes me fulfilled, which what makes basically my role is to just blatantly help people and change lives. I have this weird goal. I don't tell it to a lot of people. I think I may have mentioned it. I can't remember who. I was mentioned it once on a podcast recently with somebody. I can't remember if it was on yours or my buddy Troy's. But I have this weird goal of when I die, I want the most insanely packed funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because my goal is to just change people's lives, whether that was in the littlest fashion possible or completely, changing someone's, life in a million different ways. I just want to help people and change people's lives. I want to be able to give a lot. I want, whether that be my time, my finances, my whatever, I just want to help people. That's really what it comes down to.
I think that's I think it's weird that most people don't think about that in the first place, because then you kind of just float about through life, and then next thing you know, it's over, and then I don't think anybody wants to be there. So I think that's amazing, and it sounds like you think about you start with the end in mind, and I think that's pretty amazing.
You have to.
And as
man.
far as which is, if you don't know where you're going, doesn't really matter what you're doing in the meantime, right? Because you don't have a destination.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of like one of the lessons that I've learned is, and kind of sounds like what your big goal is leave things better than you found them.
Yeah.
And along the way, you're going to end up having a more fulfilled or richer life as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, man, whether it's like, I think people underestimate the power of small things. Like even like just smiling at somebody. Like you may be walking through a grocery store and you see somebody and you just make eye contact and smile with them and say, "Hey man, how you doing?" Like it's you, most people have no idea how far something as little as that would go. Or who was I listening to? I was listening to somebody's podcast, or I can't remember where I heard this from, but it was talking about how powerful being the person who believes in somebody else is. Like, I'm sure you have grown up, like, to be where you're at. Like right now, I'm sure you have one or two people in mind who believe. There were times where they believed in you and ran beer more than you believed in yourself. And that helped take you to places further on than you could have imagined, where that's that role of someone believing in you, like whether, like, a lot of people, it was a teacher that saw like enormous potential or whatever. A lot of people underestimate the power of something small, to completely revolutionize somebody's life.
Yep. I think that's super important. And you're 100% right. There's been many people, or have been fortunate to have that, have those people who believed when, sometimes it gets a little bit difficult. And talk to me a little bit about, like, I think as a coach, one of the biggest ingredients that you can have in successful coaching is actually that, like, believing the person, like your X's and O's, your diet, your training, and all that. That's all great, but if you have this piece, that's the thing that's the magical key, right? So talk to me a little bit about that, and especially in terms of like how you work with your clients.
For sure. Like, I'll give you an example right now. I have a lady that I'm working with. Her name's Sarah. She's an absolutely an amazing human being. She's just an amazing human. And she's doing everything right. But as always, we are the hardest people on ourselves. I'm the hardest person on myself. Ranbir's the hardest person on yourself. Like, we're all hardest on ourselves. And she was talking to me. She's like, "Hey, should I be changing like the X's and O stuff?" She's like, "Hey, I think I need to drop my calories. I think I need to up my this or drop this." I said, whoa, wait. Why do you want to do any of that? And she's like, "I don't know, to keep progress going." I said, "Has progress stalled out, or are you still changing?" Yeah. And she's like, "No, I'm still losing inches." I said, then wait a second. Why are we wanting to change everything up? It's like, why fix what's not broken is a huge philosophy of mine. But I was talking to her, and one thing with coaching that I see is nobody sees their progress as much as other people. Like there's that quirky little thing on Facebook that rolls around that says you're, week 1, you own progress. Week 2, your friends and family. Week 3, relatives. Week 4, and that thing is totally backwards. Where you're the last person
Yep.
to see your progress. And one thing that I've been doing more is showing my clients their progress, showing them their own progress, whether they're like, hey, look at your deadlift when we started, look at your deadlift now. Hey, look at what wasn't showing here now, and you've lost, 20, 30 pounds. Look at where things are at now. And a lot of it from a coaching standpoint is showing the client their successes, because they're the last ones that's going to see them. And I pulled out this client in particular, Sarah's, I pulled out her side-by-sides and like sent them to her and showed them. I'm like, look, I know you don't see it right now, but look at where you were now and look at where you are this second. Look at where you were and look at where you are now. And she like had no idea. She's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. I think some of the stuff with coaching is showing people their successes versus scolding them on what they're not doing right. I think a lot of it is showing them what they are doing correctly and where they're winning at. And then where the focus goes, energy always flows.
Dude, that's so awesome. And by the way, shout out to Sarah. Sarah keeps killing it.
That's right.
And don't try to fix what's not broken. Let let Jared handle that. But that's super awesome, because that reminds me of one of the little drills that I have, my clients do, which is we call it minding the gap. And people are always thinking about the gap that's in front of them of where they are today and where they want to be, which always seems so far away, but they never mind the gap that's behind them from where they were and where they are today. So I think that's pretty awesome, putting that focus on and showing people how far they've come,
Yeah. Or even in like different cases, showing awareness is everything. Awareness is the end all cure all. Because if you're not aware of a problem, you can't fix it. If you don't know your install out, you can't take it to the mechanic to get it fixed. Like awareness is everything. And but bringing a client or someone and showing them like whether like, hey, look, you're doing this right. This is what's going well. Look at how far you've come. Or even like one thing I've been doing a lot lately with like my in-persons is when I'm trying to reinforce, like, let's say someone's trying to learn the proper way to hip hinge and deadlift, and they're having a hard time with it, showing them like a video when they're doing it wrong. And then once they do it right, showing them the other video, like, hey, look, this is what you just did. And a lot of times, even just stuff like that reinforces it and brings awareness to it, that kind of stuff. Awareness is everything.
Dude, that's such a underutilized tool, and we encourage that all the time here, as well as like, hey, I need you to just record one set every time you do something. Just record. You don't need to record everything, but what you'll see is, you're 100% right. That awareness, it's hard to have that awareness unless you and now we're talking about specifically like a exercise, but shining that light on it and seeing it side by side is so key. Let me ask you this: who was that person or people who believed in you when maybe you didn't believe in yourself?
That's a good question, because like it's crazy. There's been different points, like from when I was little or when I'm growing now. Especially like right now, like business. Like my biggest thing right now that I'm doing is I'm really pushing Hamilton Trained hard, just because like right now I'm in that magic 20s window. You're in your 20s, no kids, wicked supportive wife, like nothing crazy tying me down where I could still go and camp out in my office for 14 hours. Like I can still do that right now. Honestly, right now, the biggest one is my wife. Like because I'm huge on power positive thinking, zero tolerance for being negative. Don't give any power to that kind of thing. But, we're all human. And even like me, like there's times where I'm like, oh shit, this isn't going well. This isn't the way it should be, all this stuff. But my wife has probably been the absolute biggest for that, because my wife's been with me since I was 13 years old. She's been around. We have kind of our story's kind of that straight up out of, a fairy tale, like Ushy Gushy High School Musical, make you want to throw up kind of story. So,
hey, that's bad. That's badass, because I've been with my wife since I was 18. So, how old are you?
26.
26. So, what's it been? 13 years?
Yeah, like I met well the funny thing with me and my wife is I met her when she was 13, so I'm the 16-year-old thinking the 13-year-old's cute. So like I had to keep my distance for a while because that was really bad looking for a bit. Like being like the like I said, the 16-year-old thinking the 13-year-old's cute. So but otherwise we've been friends since she was 13 years old. And I was 16. But then one thing led to another. We were homies for a little while, and then a year or two later we started dating, and then dated solid, never took any breaks, literally dated for like, I don't know, like 8 years or something stupid like that. Engaged for a year, got married, and been going strong ever since, and our wedding anniversary is coming up in June. Like it's badass. So she's been with me the whole course. But as far as you're talking about someone who believes in you more than you believe in yourself, like that's been my pushing. That's been the person pushing on me. When like I'm feeling discouraged or I'm not feeling so hot, where they're like, nope, you're good. Just keep going. You're fine. Yep. Well, remember why you started this in the first place, whatever, that kind of thing.
That's pretty amazing. And I 100% I'm right there with you because it's the same thing for me. There's been people along the way, but especially since you've known each other for so long, she knows everything about you, and what you really want and why you started it and where you want to be. So that's awesome to have that. Let me ask you, so the next thing I wanted to ask, actually, we'll go a little bit in reverse, is what are your current personal goals in terms of working out and health and fitness for yourself? I think you were talking about it with Carter. Shout out Carter.
Hey, Carter.
When I think you were saying you're in a fat loss phase right now.
Yeah, right now I'm kind of a little heftier than I'd like to be. So right now I'm just slowly cutting up a little bit. But I want to get my strength back. So like my numbers aren't anything impressive right now, but I'm just slowly trying to drop my body fat a little bit, but get my strength back up as well. So.
And so just out of curiosity, what are your numbers?
Dude, I don't even right now. Well, right now with my numbers, I'm kind of like, I'm not completely maxing out right now. I've been hitting like 1 to 3s, but because right now I'm kind of recovering from also like a low back issue because I've got like the body of like an 80-year-old. Like it's interesting. So in the past when I was trying to push heavier weight or pull heavier weight, my low back and my right shoulder have always been a major issue. So it's kind of like doing what I can with those. Like I got a fucked up collarbone, and my AC on my right side is my AC joint is like.
Was that for?
I don't know, because my collarbone's crooked. Like if I were to take a picture of my collarbone and send it to you, the right side is elevated and rolled. I don't know how that is. I'm pretty sure it's genetic because I saw a picture when I was like 6. Can you hear me?
Yeah. All right.
Woo.
God damn. All right.
It's all good.
So anyways, you were talking about I was asking you if the shoulder injury was from martial arts.
Yeah. So I don't think it helped any. Like I said, genetically, I think my collarbone is just disfigured or not aligned or something, just because it's really fucked up looking. But I don't know. Back in the day, I've gone to PT and stuff, and I don't know. It's in my AC is the problem, my AC joint. So I kind of take it with my good days and it's my bad days with it. So I'm still kind of dealing with that. Otherwise, my numbers kind of suck between that and my like low back, but I still don't want to use that as an excuse to like not work on my strength. But I'm still playing and like feeling okay in the 3s on like my squats and deadlifts and in the 2s on my bench presses. So I'm still not. My strength is still pretty low.
That's still pretty badass. The reason I asked that is I think that's very helpful for people who are wherever they are on their fitness journey, because I think we live in this time where you see fucking Alj deadlifting mid 5s for reps, and you're like, oh fuck, and I think it's very important for the person listening to remember that your strength is only in relation to yourself. So I think that's always a good thing to kind of remind people about, because it's super easy, man. Like you see all this crap on you only see people deadlifting 700 pounds. Nobody ever posts, hey, this is my work. This is the majority of my work, and it's done at 200 to 300 pounds.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure.
So let's get into some of the nitty gritty, as I like to call it. I got a few random questions here. First of all, I wanted to tell you this is I appreciate your straightforwardness in discussing topics, because another thing nowadays is this I don't know, this need to be super gentle and like don't hurt anybody's feelings, and everybody's super sensitive.
The snowflakes.
The snowflakes. That's it.
No, dude, I think it's, I appreciate that. Well, one thing that I love more when I talk with anybody, so I'm a huge intention guy. As long as your intention with me is pure, we're good. I would rather get hurt accidentally by someone who had pure intentions. I would rather you not realize I was walking behind you and you accidentally slammed the door in my face and it hurt me. And you're like, oh shit, sorry, dude, I didn't know you were behind me. Opposed to you like secretly waiting for me to slam the door in my face and it missed and it didn't touch me. Like, your intention is all I care about. So, I mean, I have a very blunt mentality, but one, that's what I appreciate about others. I don't want anyone to lie to me to make me feel good or to bullshit me. I want to hear what the deal is. If I say, hey, what do you think? If I say, hey, Alj, why is my deadlifting sucks? Or why is my deadlift sucks? And you're like, oh, because your core's weak as shit. I don't want you to be like, well, I like your outfit, but like, and your glutes are really strong. I don't know, your core might need a little bit of work. Like, well, like Jordan Syatt, you and I are homies with Jordan. One thing, like Jordan's the same way. So I suck at writing. I'm much more audio video guy. I would rather get up in front of a crowd of 9,000 people, or get in front of a class, or I suck ass at writing. Well, I work with Jordan. Jordan proofreads all my stuff, and Jordan will literally be like, okay, this part in your blog, this part is good, but overall this part was shitty. I can tell you were being lazy. I love that. Like that level of bluntness, because I know Jordan's intention. It all comes back to intention. So when I talk with people, I want to be as transparent as possible. That's my goal, is I want to be as transparent as possible, whether that be about stuff that I suffer with or suck at, or telling people about stuff that they suffer with or they suck at, you know. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. I think it's true love and care for somebody is when you are willing to tell them the truth, not when you're so concerned about their feelings that it's going to end up making them softer and weaker and unable to absorb the real world. And for me, it's always like, that's why training is such and lifting weights and strength is such a great analogy for everything. Is like, guess what? The stronger you are, the more shit you can take in real life. And if you're soft and weak, you know, even the smallest thing is going to hurt you.
Yeah.
And it goes the same way for your feelings and, you know, life in general.
Yep.
Tell me what you think about, as a coach, your role in helping people see, because, and I'll get to the question, but the kind of context around this is that, you know, as coaches or anybody who's gotten results for themselves, it's very quickly that we forget what it was like to be the beginner and how much it sucked and how many obstacles we had. So tell me about, you know, what you think the coach's role of helping that person see the obstacles that are going to show up and kind of like mapping it out, say, hey, these problems are going to happen, and that's okay, because that's how it's supposed to work. Whereas most people, you know, on the client side or the person trying to get there on their side, they get bummed out the minute, you know, something quote unquote bad happens. And on the coach's side, I know a lot of coaches, they talk to these people who, from their vantage point, versus where is that person today? And maybe you haven't been there for like 8 years or 9 years.
Yeah, for sure. I think a big part of that is just proper planning and transparency and authenticity. So like, let's say I've been doing this for a minute. I've been doing this for a minute. I'm, confident in my knowledge and what I know and all this other stuff. Like as a coach, as one should be. And you've got somebody brand new, and you're like, look, I know. And I think a big part of it is being transparent and saying, listen, you're gonna want to do this. You're gonna fall on your face. You're gonna do this. It's like people freak out. Like this is the one I never get. People freak out when they plateau. Like
Yep.
Literally, I've never heard someone once say, hey, dude, I think I'm kind of in a plateau. What should I do? I hear, dude, holy shit. I'm ready to quit. I'm fucking plateauing now. It's not worth it. I'm ready to fucking quit. And I'm like, I never understood that, because it's like everything's a matter. That's what losing weight is. Your body, you start eating less, your body plateaus by dropping some weight, and it's maintenance is now at a new standpoint. Like,
Yep.
or getting stronger. You start lifting heavier weight, progressive overload, all that mess, and your body plateaus by getting stronger to be able to handle said heavy load. Like,
Yep.
People freak out when they hit a plateau or an obstacle comes up. But I'm like, dude, do you freak out when your gas tank in your car runs empty? Or when it gets to about a quarter of a tank, you're like, ooh, I should probably fill up here soon. Like,
Yep.
Like, I think part of it is just proper transparency and just letting them know the roads ahead. Like, if it's like even our GPS is on our phone, it shows you when there's a fucking traffic jam or like when it's crowded or congested. So you're aware and can plan accordingly. So that's what I tell people, like, especially in coaching with my clients and whatnot, is I'm like, look, I'm actually getting ready to record a podcast that I think I'm going to title it, You're Going to Fucking Fail. Like, I think people freak out when they get all fired up. They just watched the newest episode of Dr. Oz, or they watched the newest, extreme, weight loss or something. And they're like, you know what? I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start eating right. And then they they fall on their face. They go get some margaritas with the girls that day, or they go have a chocolate bar because the Girl Scouts are selling cookies or something. And like, they have a failure moment. They like deviate from the plan, so to speak. And then they freak out like that wasn't going to happen. Like, dude, you got to understand that's part of the process. I think understanding and being able to trust the process is something no one talks about. The coolest new fat burner, the coolest new ketogenic diet, the coolest new workout split. But no one's like, no, you got to trust the process. Like you and I talked about on my podcast, the gestation period of a plant. There's the gestation period of any goal. Like if you're wanting to lose weight, it's not going to happen. Take time. You're going to want to quit. You're going to want to fall on your face. You're going to wonder if it's worth it. But here's how to go about it. And then taking it one day at a time. I think, I think coaches don't help their clients foresee the future, so to speak.
Yep. And you know what? That ties back in kind of where we started, which is like, that's what a good teacher does. A good teacher doesn't fuel the freak out or, freaks out with the client. It's like the good teacher lets the client know that you're going to freak out, but this is what's going to happen and this is how we're going to move forward. And one of the ways that we kind of at San Jose Barbell, we try to show or instill this in all of our coaches as well as just me and Alj, how we talk about things is we tell people like, hey, plateauing is cool. Like everybody else thinks of plateaus as bad. Guess what? We fucking think they're badass because that means you made a bunch of progress. Now we're here. Now we got to do the next step. And so guess what? Plateaus are cool. And that like making things cool, things that should be cool, making them cool, whereas everybody else thinks they're the worst, it's the end of the world, is a pretty useful thing that we've been focusing on,
Well, I want to jump in real quick while we're talking about this. It's just like that conversation I had with Carter, because people are like, well, I lost 20 pounds and I haven't been able to lose any more than that, but they've been able to maintain that 20 pounds forever. People forget, and another thing that coaches don't talk enough about is not just getting results. Like, losing weight's cool. Gaining muscle's cool. But even if you're in what people like to quote unquote say as a plateau, people forget like that the fact that you're able to maintain your progress is awesome. If I could mow my yard one fucking time and it be mowed for the next 5 years, that'd be pretty fucking sick. Like, It's like with Carter. Carter's lost 140 pounds, and then he's kept it off for 5 years. That's why I want to get him on the podcast. Like, that's fucking cool. Like, but he could be a bitch about it if he wanted to and be like, well, I've lost 140 pounds and I haven't lost any more. But he's not being a little bitch about it. He's like, no, I'm going to show you guys how I've maintained 140 pounds off. Like, everything's what you make it. People it's one of my biggest principles. You will get what you search for. If you Ranbeer could literally pull the key to cancer out of your ass, and there's going to be somebody that's going to be pissed about it. They're like, well, he pulled it out of his ass, not his pocket. It's dirty or something. Like, we get what we look for. So if you want to find the good in a plateau, you'll find it. But if you want to find the bad in a massive body transformation, you'll find it. It's all about what you look for. And there's times as being a good coach, I will call my clients out on improper focus. I had a client one time, she messaged me. She's like, I don't know what to do, Jared. I'm ready to quit. I'm in tears right now. This isn't working. I'm ready to quit. I haven't lost any weight. And if anyone follows me for any point in time, I'm not huge on the scale, especially for fat loss. Like, I'm a big measurements, clothes fitting, how you look naked kind of thing. And I said, wait a second. I said, okay, well, cool. I get you. You're not happy right now. But didn't you just send me a message like 2 weeks ago that you're down 3 pant sizes and you had to move your wedding ring to your middle finger because you lost so much body fat? And she said, yeah, but I haven't lost any weight. The damn scale won't move.
Yep.
So to recap all that, like, literally, I said, so let me get this straight. You have lost body fat. It's evident you are down 3 pant sizes. You've lost so much body fat that your wedding ring doesn't even fit, and you got to put it onto a bigger finger. But you are freaking the fuck out because the damn scale won't move. It's one of those things, like, you'll get what you look for. She's seen progress, but she was choosing to ignore the good and only find the bad of the damn scale weight. In that situation. Like, her focus was off. And as her coach, I said, hey, your focus is really fucking off, and I'm ready for you to throw your scale out the damn window. Like, And honestly, and even in that, we found an underlying issue that she had an addiction to the scale. She couldn't do it. Like it literally took tears in her eyes and her husband throwing it away to get rid of it because she couldn't do it. Like, and then she eventually did it. I'm like, so, and I told her, I said, thank you for reaching out, using me, because otherwise we never would have found out about this issue. And then we moved past that issue. Now she's in a better place because of it, you know?
Yes, dude, that's so key. Like, you're 100% right. That happens on an almost daily, if not weekly basis. You know, people will focus on one thing, and meanwhile they'll have gotten all the results they want, but this one number is not where they want or think it should be, and then that, you know, fuck everything else. That's the only thing that matters. And so, you know, that's again, just goes back to good coaching and being a good teacher, is like showing them, like, what was your goal? Was your goal to look good and feel good and be healthy and strong and be able to do what you want to do? Or was it for this thing to say one specific number? Like, what's the goal here? And yeah, man, I think that's pretty amazing. And that's what a good coach should be doing.
I tell them, unless they're gonna like rock that scale around their neck on a chain like a Flava Flav clock, they don't need to worry about it. Unless they're literally gonna walk around with a sign or that damn scale on a necklace that says, "Hey, look, I weigh 140 fucking pounds." They need to quit worrying about it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I got a couple things left here before we wrap up, but I really liked the car analogy that you actually, you have a bunch of really good analogies. So talk to me. And you know what? I love analogies, and I think they're so important because we just lose focus and we can't understand things. But if we put it in the context of something else, we see how ridiculous we're being.
It's interesting you say that, because most people, like, it's funny. A lot of people hate my analogies. Like, I'm the biggest. It's funny. I was just talking to my wife about this because my wife thinks I have the dumbest analogies ever. But my point isn't it being intelligent. The point is it getting the point across. Like, but I that's funny. I've had a couple people, like a couple really good coaches like yourself, mention that about my analogies. But most everybody else laughs at my analogies. I think it's awesome.
Dude, it's pretty badass. And I'm like you. I'm always trying on different analogies, and it's always a work in progress. So I appreciate a good analogy when I see one. But the one that I really liked, I was just listening to this the other day, was when you were talking about, it was on one of your podcasts, driving and the rules of fat loss. Like, driving your car, you have to follow certain rules, and those don't change whether you're driving. You could drive whatever kind of car, you could drive a truck, you can walk, you can do whatever you want, but you have to follow the rules. And you were talking in relation to trying different diets and whatnot. Talk a little bit about that. I think that one is money.
I love that example. Like what I call the fat loss rules. Like, like no matter what diet you do, like people get I hate it. People get so caught up in the most trendy diet.
Yep.
And like right now, I don't know if it goes as like a whole or like in different areas. Like right now over here in Indiana, like keto is like ridiculously
That's everywhere.
High. Okay.
Yep.
And like 6 months ago, intermittent fasting was like the new shiny. That's why I like to call it like the new shiny. Like it's like, ooh, it's all cool and pretty. Like, okay, well, what's the next new shiny?
Yep.
But yeah, with that analogy specifically, I talk about like just like cars. Like if you run into different people, they're like you're the keto people, they're the intermittent fasting people, they're the CrossFitters, the paleo people, the carnivore people, the Whole30, or like eat your own damn thumb people, like whatever whatever your thing is. Like that's the thing, they all work. People, like I get people all the time that fall into the trap of the trendy stuff, and they're like, well, would I get more of an edge with keto? Would I be up a little more ahead of the game with intermittent fasting or paleo or whatever? But like that's the thing people don't get is, like I'll ask somebody, I'll be like, I'll have a client or anybody for that matter, that's going off the bandwagon and trying to try one of these crazy trendy diets, and they're like, I can't lose weight, I can't figure out what my problem is. I said, okay, what's your numbers look like? Oh, I don't count, I just eat keto. And I'm like, okay, but what do your numbers look like? Like, and they're like, oh no, it's I eat keto. And I'm like, and that's the thing with that, bringing it back to that analogy, is the whole thing, like we all know, you have to take in less calories on a consistent basis than what your body burns to lose weight. It don't matter if it's intermittent fasting calories where you eat once a day, or if it's you're all fat and protein like a keto diet or whatever. And yeah, the example I gave was, you come across people that are Harley people. They will not drive anything but a Harley, even in the winter, like over here where it snows. Or you got people that are just minivan people, like, or Jeep people, or like you'll get into the cult of cars. Like, if you get around a Jeep person or a Harley person or a good old boy truck person, my little brother's one of those. Or like, but every one of them is on the road as long as they follow the rules of the road. Stop at stoplights, yield at yield, green means go. If a cop pulls you over, you got to pull over. Like, you can drive whatever you want as long as you follow the rules of the road. And every fat loss system, if you want to call it that, work as long as you're hitting the same things. You're still, in a calorie deficit, low stress, sleeping well, high protein, that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's such a great analogy.
Car analogies work real well with me. Actually, I thought of another really money one the other day. Well, I don't know if it's money. I think it's money to me. Because, do you get people, is one thing, do you get with your clients or following people who think that just because it's a healthier or a more nutritious food, the calories don't count? You get that a lot?
Always.
I found the best analogy to combat these. I was thinking about it the other day while I was filling up my car. My car holds roughly 12 gallons of gas. Yep. My car really likes gas. Like, I don't know about your car, but my car loves gas. Like, if I put anything else, it won't run. But I got to put gas in my car because it loves gas. Gas is healthy for my car. But if I put any more than 12 gallons in it, it overflows. And that gas goes on the ground, wasted. So that's my new analogy when telling people that. They're like, oh, it's healthy, I can eat whatever I want as long as it's healthy, like peanut butter and avocado and dried fruit and granola. I'm like, well, that's cool. But just like my car won't take any more than 12 gallons of gas, even though gas is very good for my car, it will overflow and be wasted. Your body only holds so many calories. And then once you hit more than that, in the same way with my car, it overflows and is stored as fat. That's my newest analogy.
That's money right there. And I'm definitely going to be using that one as well. And unfortunately, whereas in your car, it just spills out.
Yeah.
When you eat too many calories, you hold on to it as extra storage. So, you know, that's the only
major difference.
Bad part, yeah. About eating or putting too much gas in the fuel tank. So, all right. So I got a couple rapid fire things for you. Number one, um, funny enough, actually, this was my next question is, what do you think about rapid fat loss and
It's
who should
retarded.
use it? Okay.
I'm not
That's good.
like I'm not a fan, like in general. Like I had somebody reach out to me the other day. They're like, "Hey, I'm trying to." They wanted to bring me on like as a coach and to get them ready for because they said they had something going on in 3 weeks. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
you realize nothing's gonna happen in 3 weeks. Like you can't get
It's,
fat in 3 weeks. Like come on.
no. Yeah, dude. That's I just had a fighter reach out to me. He has 5 weeks, and I'm like, bro, I've told you before, I don't like to do cuts. Number one, but number two, you waited till the 5 weeks prior to the fight to reach out to me. Like I can't do this. I'm not gonna put my name on that. You're right. Not smart.
Yep.
Um, I'm putting you on the spot by trying to keep these as quick. What do you think about cheat meals?
Like as like the title, like as in like good food, bad food, cheap food kind of thing.
Yeah. I know your opinion on this, and I want people to know about it because I think it's the right way to look at this thing, and it's definitely why a lot of people have issues.
Got it. So the way I like to put it, I hate cheat meals, but love flexible dieting. Like that's like in like one sentence, I hate the concept of cheat meals, cheat days, but I love the concept of having a flexible dieting lifestyle and approach to it. Like no extremes, no good food, bad food, healthy, unhealthy, fat storing, fat burning. And in my opinion, if you have to have a 1 day set aside labeled as a cheat day or your cheat meal, then you're depriving yourself way too fucking much during your week, your normal day to day. If you need a cheat meal or a cheat day, just because the nature of it. But I also don't even like labeling it as a cheat meal, cheat day, because that in school we were taught don't cheat on your test. That's bad. You're not going to go to your spouse, Rambier. You're not going to go to your wife and be like, all right, honey, it's my cheat day. I'm going to go fuck the waitress at the restaurant down the street. In no other scenario is that okay. So that's just begging for bad associations with food, because what happens is people have this cheat meal, cheat day mentality. They deprive themselves and put a fucking donut on a pedestal, and they like deprive themselves and starve themselves all week, and then they try to cram every self-sabotaging calorie into their bodies on their cheat meal, cheat day, versus treating every day the same. And if you decide you want a fucking donut, don't eat it like a fucking asshole. Like make it work in your numbers. Or if for some reason you go overboard, because we're all human, I've done it, you've done it, we've all done it, then you just get back to work the next meal the next day. Like people give food too much credit. I mean, it's fucking food. Like it's not that big of a deal.
That's anybody who's struggling with that, I would advise you to press the 15-second rewind thing and re-listen to that. Because that will be a game changer. And I remember even myself going through that. There was a time, guess what? I thought eating carbs would make me fat. And it wasn't until I went through that and learned that I figured out, oh, okay, well, no food is bad food or good food.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And the reason I wanted to ask you that question in specific and is because, you know, words are so important. And I really liked your view on that, because I'll tell you what, and maybe you can relate to this. People will see me eating all kinds of different things, and I stay lean pretty much all year round. And they'll be like, oh, is it your cheat day? Is it cheat meal? And, you know, as aware as I am, you know, human tendency, one day maybe I'll out of it, but it still pisses me off because I'm like, no, this is not cheat meal. This is just how I eat. And I understand what I'm doing. And the fact that you're calling it a cheat meal, like you said, you're setting yourself up for issues.
Well, the problem too is people take that to an extreme. So like that's the other thing I found among like the majority of the fitness industry and even coaches. Like that's the scary thing, dude, is the more I hear other coaches, like from people who are highly looked upon by dieters and gym goers, is there's a lot of dumbass coaches out there. There's a lot of badass coaches like you, but there's also a lot of dumbass coaches that are pushing the wrong mentality. But the thing that I really hate is the extremism. Like I'll be talking to somebody about this concept of flexible dieting. And people will be like, oh, so I can eat, then I can have my whole calories worth every day and Pop-Tarts and gummy bears. And I'm like, no, asshole. I never said that either. Like people take it from, I had a dude that is local to me sit down. Like I was at the gym the other day and he came up to me and he's like trying to tell me how he feels I'm pushing everyone to just have their calories worth in Pop-Tarts and gummy bears as long as their calories are in check. In almost every fucking post I make about flexible dieting, I always say, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying eat your whole day's worth in shit. Yep. I'm saying is quit being so black and white about it. Because then you'll have people that they'll go to the other extreme and their whole day's worth of food is organic, perfectly clean, or perfectly zero like they won't have any Pop-Tarts or any sugar or any fun food ever. So it's either one.
They see you eating a Pop-Tart, they're freaking out. They're like, oh my god, as if like, you know, they just can't take it, and they feel the need to tell you about it. So
yeah,
totally agree with that. All right, dude. This was something that we'll end it on this, but I listened to a lot of your stuff, and of course, you know, on it. And just a quick note, because you mentioned this, and this really stuck out to me, is, you know, for somebody listening, and you're trying to make this change, and you're getting to the point of understanding that it's a process, and there's bumps along the way, and those are cool. That's part of it. You're talking about coaches. Yeah, I 100% agree. There are a lot of shitty coaches, especially now with Instagram. Everybody's a coach just because they're in shape and they put up a bunch of ass shots. So people, just watch out who you're listening to. All right. But anyways, I just had to get that in.
Yeah, love it.
We have this joke about, hey, well, if you really want somebody to get more engagement, or you know, you want somebody to pay attention, just post some ass shots. So we'll always joke around, me, LJ, and the guys. All right, so you said this in one of your things, and it's, yeah, you know, it's hard to eat right, but what's really hard is to not be able to play with your kids. I just expanded on that. It's hard to have people be responsible for you because you can't move around. It's hard to not be able to dance with your wife. It's hard to go to the doctor and take all these medications. So you said pick your hard, right? Like which one do you want? Because they're both hard, but you get a choice. So I'll let you wrap it up with your thoughts on that, and kind of like what you would tell somebody who's listening, who's getting there, who's starting to understand why this would be so extremely helpful.
Yeah, dude. So when it comes to all of that, I am the absolute biggest believer in everything is hard. Not a single fucking thing is easy. Like this goes through so much in life, more than just losing weight or gaining muscle or whatever. But in terms of that, like, that's why I tell people, they're like, well, Jared, you don't understand, you don't understand how it is having PCOS and can't losing weight. And I'm like, oh, like, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's hard, but how about dying 10 years early and leaving your kids without you? Yep. I mean, I say that's pretty fucking hard. I know of a few people who just like to bitch about life and everything. Yep. And they're like, well, Jared, you don't know what it's like to have to get up at 5 a.m. and get your kids on the bus and they're kicking and screaming. That's hard. I said, okay, I agree that's hard, but I know people who would die to have their kids back because they're fucking dead. Yep. Like, that's hard. Like everything's hard. People want rainbows and sunshines and unicorn piss on everything. Yep. It literally, like, this is one of those subjects that just lights me on fire, because everything is hard. Getting abs is hard, but so is being fat and unfulfilled. Yep. Like, people talk about business. People see me doing my Hamilton Train thing and seeing like the hours that I pull, or there's a lot on the hard end of that people don't see, just because I don't like to whine, bitch, and complain like a little victim. Yep. Calling all victims. But that's the thing. People like that, you know, like my good friends will know, like, some of the sacrifices that I make and do for, you know, what I'm working on. And they're like, dude, that seems so hard. I'm like, yeah, dude, but I couldn't fathom anything else than being unfulfilled and leaving my family without, you know, being able to provide for them. Like, people don't understand, dude, that everything in life is hard. Having an amazing
Yep.
In every area of life. Yeah, losing weight's hard. Getting up early is hard. You know, not eating like an asshole is hard. Counting calories is hard. But, you know, being a bad example to your kids and being unfulfilled and not being happy and, you know, hating yourself when you look in the mirror, like, that shit's hard too. It's just picks your fucking heart.
It's totally, and I think that's a great way to end this. And again, like we're in this time where we just listen to things and move on. But again, rewind that, listen to that again, just take a few seconds. And you know, as you were talking about that, what the image that kind of comes into my mind is like, you get used to whatever version of hard you want. So like, you could get used to taking pills and being overweight, just like you can get used to putting in work, eating right, lifting weights, whatever it might be. So pick your version of that. Awesome, dude. Hey, where can people find you? Where can they get a hold of you if they want to work with you? Where is all that stuff?
For sure. Easiest way to get a hold of me is you can either go to my website, hamiltontrained.com, and there's a contact me form. That's usually the easiest when just verbally putting it on audio like this. If you want to kind of see more what I'm about, Instagram is probably the best place. The two places I'm putting out most content and most information is my Instagram at Real Jared Hamilton, and then my podcast, which is on any, you know, iTunes, Google Play, Anchor, whatever you're on. It's just called the Hamilton Trained Podcast.
Awesome, dude. Hey, it's a pleasure to talk to you as always, and I'm sure we'll be doing more stuff in the future.
For sure, man. I appreciate you getting me on here, for real.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Awesome, man. See ya.